underestimating my abilities, but not the people I painted. And, but that, I mean, kids get that. You know, that underneath all this stuff, all the problems we have, you know, in the world, is the issue of fairness. And you know, it's so simple. It's so very simple. So I get that kind of response from schools a lot, and it's really very satisfying. And I get it also from a lot of teachers who feel inhibited at our public schools, especially, in talking about things that they believe in. You know, whether it's, you know, religious, political, whatever, you know, not in a way to, you know, things that are important to them. They feel that there's somebody watching all the time, that they can't say these things. And so they're grateful when I can come in and, you know, say things that have a real edge to them, that are about values that are really important. And when I was in a school in Wyoming, the principal, after I'd been there a while, there'd been some flack about my being there because when this book first came out, Alan Dershowitz wrote an incredibly nasty review of the book, said, this book is the literary equivalent of child abuse. This book would bring a smile to old Joe Stalin. You know, stuff like it was just like 50s red baiting. It was amazing with stuff. Anyway, this is all out there on the internet. So when parents sometimes check up on me before I get there, and they come across this stuff and they get a little worried. I'm going to be, you know, inflicting my pink values on them or something. By the way, I always present this as not about Republicans or Democrats or partisan. To me, at this point in our situation in the world, it's simply about whether we're going to deal with reality or not. You know, and no matter we're looking in terms of, you know, politics or you know, justice or the environment, you know, we've got to deal with the real situations where we're put. Anyway, this high school principal who had been telling me before when I first arrived that she was trying to walk this very careful line between, you know, offending anybody in her community or anybody's point of view, you know, trying to be the sort of Fox News fair and balanced kind of thing. What she did after I was there, she said, I just realized this is all wrong. You know, I'm not preparing our children for the issues they're going to face in their own future. But they've got to be prepared for these things, otherwise we're just wasting our time in these schools. So anyway, when that kind of thing happens, it's very rewarding. As we all, yeah.
How did you manage to get invitations to various schools?
Well, that's interesting. I don't solicit them at all. It's either word of mouth or the website or the book or, yeah, usually, you know, I get contacted by somebody in administration or a teacher. Usually the teacher starts it and says, ask somebody in administration, you know, how can we get this,
Have you visited Southern California?
I'm going to be in Santa Barbara in October.
I'm better to visit San Diego. And I was just wondering, because I have never heard anything like this happen in the schools, and I worked with them for 35 years.
Well,
God bless you.
The show of about 50 to 70 paintings, well, there's a total of almost 80, going to California in October. There are going to be 50 in Santa Barbara, and then about 30 in Santa Cruz, and then the whole show is moving to San Francisco. It's even going to be in the court system in San Francisco.
Wow.
And then it's going to maybe go to Nevada City, where by Utah Phillips is where I exploded earlier. But anyway, San Diego, I haven't been invited there, but I'd love to go. I'd love to go into the mouth of the dragon.
See what I can do. Thank you.
I've been meditating, as you know, on some of these problems too. And the one thing I think you're not talking about is the taboo subject, I think, and the most important structural subject, and the thing we're seeing between science and fundamentalism right now, which is that we fought the French Revolution and the American Revolution to get rid of divine right and slave no king. And Bush has claimed that, right? He said God has sort of told him what to do. So it seems to me a problem you're not necessarily skirting, and I'd like to know about the diplomacy of it, because I'm conflicted about this, because everybody in all religions believes in compassion and love and goodness, but the three tribes of Abraham are over there cutting each other's throat. I mean, this notion of, so religion, or the claim to religion, is maybe the most powerful, positive, but yet evil problem in a way. So in a sense, you're talking about oil, you're talking about the other things. Is it that you don't want to go there, or that you don't agree with me, or, I mean, I'm kind of curious what your view of the problem of fundamentalism and the rise of fundamentalism everywhere, and the use of that for the people in power.
No, that's a really good point, and I haven't heard of it. I just didn't talk about it today.
Okay.
A lot of you are probably familiar with Bill McKibben, the great environmentalist, and he's now at Middlebury College, who's doing some of the most active work around global warming in the country today. The most politically activist work, besides writing. The quote that I used on his painting I did last year was from an essay he wrote in Harper's Magazine a couple years ago about this very issue, about the misuse of Christianity. He's himself a particularly religious man. Actually, he got his start as a very young man working in the basement of Riverside Church in New York, when Bill Coffin was the minister there, and running a homeless shelter. But anyway, what he talks about is how we have, completely corrupted, for the uses of power and profit and domination, the essential Christian message. And he ends up by saying we've made golden calves of ourselves. And but that issue is, incredibly important. And there's, wherever we get our values, and I'm sure all of us here today at a meeting that's talking about peace and justice in the world, our values, no matter where we come from, religiously or irreligiously, are probably pretty similar. And whether you call them, Christian or Buddhist or Islamic or whatever, they all sort of come down to having done to you what you, or doing to your neighbor what you would like having done to yourself. And it's very similar. The same creed is in every religion. That's the whole thing different than having that sort of value and searching for it and then using that strength is different from imposing it through your government or imposing it as a not that value, but some value, some corruption of that value, onto other people and try to use military strength or political control to impose something on somebody else. Those things have to be kept separate. But it's a huge problem. I personally think that the problem would not be anywhere near so great if the resources, the enormous financial resources of a country like ours were being used to do justice in the world rather than to dominate. I don't think fundamentalist religions of any stripe would draw strength for violent reprisal if they were not being mistreated in some other way. That if you want to do something about terrorism, you do some good for somebody, you do some justice for them. I mean, think of what the example we could have set in Afghanistan at the very beginning of all this. If we had done something good for the country rather than bomb people at a wedding party. Then it's very hard for fundamentalists who are violent to solicit membership unless they're being mistreated anyway. And there isn't this huge gap between rich and the poor that is, as you all know, growing enormously over time. But I think, did I answer that question? I'm trying to.
Well, I'm saying it's a very, very difficult problem. And so, in a way, in your talk, as you said, you kind of didn't make that wasn't a major factor. But I'm just curious, you answered it very well, but I think we all have to struggle with that. And maybe we need new kind of language or new way of playing the game. And that's where an artist comes in.
I quoted Frederick Douglass earlier, but the quote that's on his painting over there is not the one I read, but it's about this very issue. And the reason I chose it was because, even though he said it back in the 1850s, and what he was talking about was, when you're mistreating people, they will always, want to avenge that mistreatment. And,